The Confederacy of Independent Systems is pretty well known among Star Wars fans for its ruthless corporations, the soulless profiteers who ran the Trade Federation, the Techno Union, and others. These companies built the droid army and fueled the separatist war machine. But just because the separatist megacorporations are more well known, doesn't mean the Republic didn't have its own megacorporations. Not all of the galaxy's big arms dealers threw their lot in with the separatists. Some made a killing making weapons for the Republic, and later, the Empire. Some of these companies were every bit as morally bankrupt as their separatist counterparts, including the one we'll be talking about today, Kuat Drive Yards, the creators of the Star Destroyer.
Attention, Sergeant on deck!
Centuries before the Republic was even an idea, a group of human colonists led by 10 families of aristocrats settled on a planet on the edge of the core. This world was named Kuat, after the Kuat family, the most powerful of the aristocrats, and it was transformed into a paradise by the best terraformers the human core had to offer. Once Kuat was fit for settlement, the aristocrats began their next big project, the construction of the largest and most advanced shipyards in known space. 6 great orbital shipyards were built during the initial phase of Kuati development, and the Kuat family formed a powerful corporation to manage it all, Kuat Drive Yards. By that point, the Republic had come into being, with Kuat being among its founding worlds, and over the next few millennia, it grew rapidly. KDY grew with it. What had started as a half a dozen satellite shipyards evolved into a massive artificial ring station that encircled the entire planet, which churned out all sorts of vessels and vehicles. Competing shipbuilding firms attempted to sabotage KDY on multiple occasions, even hiring pirates to carry out attacks on Kuati shipping, but they failed to stop the growth of this powerful megacorporation. For 25,000 years, it kept going strong, always under the leadership of Kuat of Kuat, the head of the Kuat family. Kuat of Kuat doubled as the ruler of Kuat itself, as KDY claimed ownership over the entire planet. For most of its existence, KDY was powerful but overshadowed by many of its competitors, especially Rendili Star Drive and its sister companies, which manufactured most of the Republic Navy. Nonetheless, KDY developed a reputation as a producer of some of the best warships in the galaxy, supplying ships to the Republic Navy during the Old Sith Wars and New Sith Wars alike. It slowly eclipsed the shipwrights of Rendili during the Great Peace of the Republic, becoming the 4th biggest shipbuilder in the Republic by 500 BBY. Still, the company sought to rise even higher and aimed to supplant one of the galaxy's top 3 shipbuilding firms, Core Galaxy Systems, Corellia Star Drive, and Horsch Kessel Drive Incorporated. Thanks to a fierce campaign of competition, espionage, and sabotage, KDY was able to undermine and buy out Core Galaxy Systems in 500 BBY, becoming the most powerful shipbuilding firm in the galaxy. By the time of the Battle of Naboo, Kuat Drive Yards built warships, starfighters, speeders, tanks, and planetary defense equipment. It was involved with numerous other corporate factions, including the Techno Union, of which it was a member, and the Trade Federation. Like many of these corporations, KDY was no stranger to the more underhanded side of galactic commerce. By 32 BBY, it was known as much for its ruthless corporate espionage as it was for its warships. These vessels were some of the biggest on the market, which KDY sold to wealthy core worlds to serve in their defense fleets. These included the Procurator-class battlecruiser, the Praetor-class battlecruiser, and the Mandator-class Star Dreadnought, which would all come to participate in the Clone Wars. It was around the time of the Battle of Naboo that KDY was secretly contacted by the Kaminoans, who had themselves just been contracted to grow a clone army for the Republic. The Kaminoans hired the services of a KDY subsidiary, Rathana Heavy Engineering, to build warships and vehicles to accompany their new Grand Army. RHE was usually given contracts KDY wanted to keep under wraps, as Rathana was an extremely remote world and known only to the highest ranking executives of KDY. Rathana came up with a number of innovative designs for the GAR, the ATTE, the LAAT gunship, and the Acclimator class assault ship among them. The Kaminoan contract led to a shift in KDY's business practices. After Naboo, they cut ties with the Trade Federation, But the company also left the Techno-Union at the start of the Separatist crisis and distanced itself from the corporate sector, which it had helped found, but backed out of once the sector started leaning toward joining the Confederacy. As war brewed, Kuat drive yards prepared to side with the Republic. But this wasn't out of the goodness of the Kuat family's hearts. Indeed, it's debatable whether any of them even had hearts. The company saw plenty of profit to be made in arming the Republic, and that alone dictated their allegiances. While Kuat drive yards decried the abuses of the Trade Federation and other soon-to-be separatist megacorporations, it was no better itself. In fact, KDY actually built ships for the Confederacy too, albeit in small numbers. These ships made up the Storm Fleet, a separatist armada that rampaged across the western reaches early in the Clone Wars, destroying Republic vessels that were also made by KDY. The company was never punished for this double dealing, even though it was technically treason. In 22 BBY, when the Clone Wars began, Rathan Heavy Engineering's new products made their debut on the plains of Geonosis, and KDY was transformed overnight into the architect of the new Republic Navy. Many of the galaxy's other major shipyards sided with the CIS due to loyalty to the Techno-Union, allowing Kuat to move in and fill the void. In the days after Geonosis, the company received orders from the Senate for 1,000 more acclimators, together with a whole host of other ships, starfighters, and ground vehicles. In a matter of weeks, it went from being the most powerful shipbuilder in the Republic to the most powerful corporation in the galaxy. KDY's role in supplying the Republic Navy made Kuat one of the Republic's most important strongholds. It also made the Kuat family paranoid. It didn't help that Kuat was extremely close to Balmorra and Nemoidia, two major separatist manufacturing hubs. During the Clone Wars, Kuat built a massive private military for fear of a Nemoidian invasion and participated in a standoff with Nemoidia, stationing fleets of warships at the edge of the system and sowing the space between it and the separatist worlds with mines. Kuat deployed so many mines that they actually ended up contaminating a leg of the nearby Hydian Way, rendering the heart of one of the galaxy's most important hyperlanes impassable. Yet again, these abuses were ignored by the Senate, which needed KDY to make its warships. With that said, Kuat drive yards couldn't build the whole Republic military on its own, though it was given first pick of all new military contracts. To ease the burden, KDY collaborated with the Corellian Engineering Corporation and Rendili Stardrive, its longtime competitors, to supply the Republic with war machines. As part of this collaboration effort, Kuat and Rendili worked together on a project called the Victor Initiative, which aimed to create the ultimate heavy multi-role warship. Led by the master designer Wolex Blissex and his daughter Lyra, the Victor Initiative created the very first Star Destroyers. The flagship project of the Victor Initiative was Wolex's Victory-class Star Destroyer. But one of Lyra's designs, the Venator-class Star Destroyer, premiered much earlier, becoming the first Star Destroyer to see action. The Venator was the backbone of the Republic Navy for almost the entirety of the Clone Wars, though it was edged out by the smaller but tougher Victory class later in the war. In the last days of the conflict, the Victory class itself ended up being supplanted by another of Lyra Blissex's designs, the Imperator class Star Destroyer, better known as the Imperial class Star Destroyer. Though the design and development of these first Star Destroyers was a joint effort between Kuat and Rendili, KDY ended up taking most of the credit and most of the profits, especially after Rendili briefly seceded later in the war. With its place as the designer of the warships of the future secure, Kuat drive yards expanded its operations, taking over recaptured Techno-Union shipyards and seizing assets from captured separatist mech worlds. The workers on many of these worlds had celebrated when the GAR drove their bosses away, but when KDY moved in, they proved to be just as brutal. After the declaration of a new order, Kuat drive yards won big due to its support for the Republic during the Clone Wars, winning a high place in the Imperial hierarchy. The company continued to produce Star Destroyers for the Imperial Navy, and it continued to churn out new, even bigger warship designs, culminating in the massive Executor class and Eclipse class Star Dreadnoughts. Most of all, however, it continued the same abuses that the separatist megacorporations had before them. The Empire liked to boast about how it had rid the galaxy of the corporate tyranny that some of the leading factions of the CIS embodied. But in reality, it gave KDY a pass to commit all the same evil. KDY stripped planets dry, used slave labor to build its Star Destroyers, and claimed ownership of entire planets worth of beings. But the worst part about all of this was that the company was never held accountable. Once the New Republic took over, KDY just started making ships for them instead, and kept subjecting the people under its thumb to imperial tyranny. The company was never prosecuted or even fined, and through it all, it kept its reputation pretty much intact. As it turns out, galactic-scale megacorporations didn't have to side with the CIS to be the absolute worst. But what do you think? Would you like to hear about some of the other loyalist arms dealers? Feel free to post your thoughts in the comments section below, and as always guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.